What's going on, everybody? This is DM Brad with the Spoiler Alert Network. Today I'm going to be bringing you this week's episode of the Watchlist. Hope you're all having a great 4th of July weekend. Now, DC Comics is home to some of the most iconic superheroes in pop culture history. Their track record has had its ups and downs, with their extensive history of comic books being adapted into several different types of media. Of course, you have the widely popular classics from the 80s, such as the Superman films, the Batman films, and the Wonder Woman television show. Then you have their pretty solid CW Arrowverse, which we'll talk about in a later video on this channel. And of course, you have the tragedy that became the DC Extended Universe. It had so much potential to be absolutely incredible. The thing that DC tends to excel at the most is their animated films. So today I'm going to be talking about Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox. Now, this film is based on the 2011 comic series simply called Flashpoint. It consisted of 61 issues that crossed over into the main DC storylines. Now, Flashpoint was a story that they sort of glossed over in the CW Flash TV show. The Flashpoint Paradox animated film is a pretty faithful adaptation from the comics. Now, if you know anything about the Flash, you know Barry Allen's origin story, how he lost his mother. Now, this film opens with Barry Allen as a child with his mother, who tells him, "Accept the things you cannot change. Have the courage to change the things you can, and have the wisdom to know the difference." Now, that's a pretty powerful quote, and it kind of ties into the theme of this whole film. Basically, Barry's mother was killed when he was still a child, something that's haunted him all the way into adulthood, even after becoming the Flash. He feels like if he could have gotten to his mother fast enough, he probably could have saved her, change the outcome. Kind of see the theme tying in there. Basically, without spoiling a whole lot of the story, we see Barry as the Flash fighting off his rogues gallery, including the Top, Mirror Master, Captain Cold, Heatwave, Captain Boomerang. He finds out that his archenemy, the Reverse Flash, Eobard Thawne, hired these rogues to draw him out. Basically, the Justice League steps in and ultimately win the day, and then Eobard says something to Barry that kind of triggers his guilt for his mother's death. Basically, the Flash runs back in time, which is something that the Flash can do. He can run so fast that he breaks the time barrier. It's a lot of confusing comic book science. Basically, he goes back and saves his mother, which in turn creates this whole new timeline referred to as Flashpoint. Now, in this new timeline, Barry doesn't have his powers as the Flash, but he retains his memories from the timeline that he's originally from. But he starts noticing things are a little different. See, obviously his mother never died. She's alive in this timeline, which, great, that was the goal. But then he notices things aren't so great after all. Turns out in this new timeline, his wife, Iris, is actually married to someone else, has no clue he even exists. And Batman, well, without spoiling a whole lot, he isn't Bruce Wayne. Superman's baby shuttle never crash landed on the Kent farm in Smallville, instead landed in Metropolis. There is no Justice League, and Cyborg is basically an agent of the government. Hal Jordan never became the Green Lantern. And Barry discovers that there's actually a war currently going on between the Atlanteans, led by Aquaman, and the Amazonians, led by Wonder Woman. So basically they're at war, trying to kill each other. Barry soon realizes that he's slowly forgetting events from his previous timeline and starting to remember things that happened in this new Flashpoint timeline. So as his old memories are fading, he realizes he has to find a way to regain his powers and run back in time to stop this timeline from ever happening before the world is destroyed. The reason I love this film so much, and this comic it's based off of, you see the implications of messing with the timeline and trying to change things that you're not supposed to change. Good job, Barry. But also, it's interesting to see these different versions of characters you're so familiar with that are so popular. And another crazy thing, in the comics, when they came out in 2011, all these 61 Flashpoint issues led into a massive reboot called the New 52 storyline. So basically, the Flash rebooted the DC Comics. That's beside the point. If you don't want to take the time to read all 61 issues of the Flashpoint comics, if you're more of a casual fan, then I highly recommend watching this film. Now, don't let the fact that it is animated fool you. There's actually some pretty dark themes and pretty gruesome events that take place in this film. It's really not for children, but I highly, highly recommend it. If you're a comic fan, if you haven't seen it already, which if you haven't, what's wrong with you? But if you have, go ahead and watch it again. It's great. And again, if you're a casual fan, I think you'll really enjoy this. It's something new, something different for you to kind of experience. In my opinion, it's a much better take on Flashpoint than the 5 seconds we got in the Flash TV show. which, not hating on that show, it's actually one of my favorite shows in the Arrowverse, but that's not what we're talking about right now. Justice League, the Flashpoint Paradox. It's great. Highly recommend it. Go ahead and watch it. It's a very faithful adaptation of a great comic book series with several interesting themes and interesting plot points. So that is why I highly recommend it. That is why it is number 2 on my watch list. So as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Don't forget we have t-shirts for sale on belowthecollar.com/tsan and prowrestlingtees.com/tsan. Make sure to check back on Spooky Tuesday for another episode of After Dark. And again on our Throwback Thursdays for an episode of Retro Vault Gaming. Let us know what you thought about Season 3 so far. We're having a ton of fun making these videos. We got big plans coming for Season 4. So again, stay tuned, and as always, be sure to stay dedicated.